This is the Dell Canvas. It is a giant 27-inch drawing display. When it was first unveiled earlier this year, it was compared a lot to the Surface Studio, and I can see why. They're both really large. 27 inches is about as big as they come when you're talking about drawing tablets. It also has a pen and this little dial, which Dell is calling the Totem. But once you get past those things, this is really different from the Surface Studio. Where the Studio was a full computer running Windows, the Canvas is a bring-your-own Windows 10 computer with it. You need to be plugging it into something in order for it to work. So when Dell sent me the Canvas to review, they also sent me this Precision all-in-one desktop to use with it. And these two devices really feel like they were designed to be used together. The Canvas can sit flat or sit at a slight angle, and when it is on that slight angle, it nestles right in against the Precision desktop. For a lot of artists and illustrators, having this be different from the Surface Studio is a-okay. Why? Well, from a spec standpoint, the Canvas is very similar to the Wacom Cintiq QHD Touch, which currently is Wacom's highest-end drawing tablet. Part of the reason it seems so similar is because it's actually using Wacom's own screen and pen technology. It also has 2048 levels of pressures in the pen, it has tilt support in the pen, and of course, it's a 27-inch QHD screen. So this idea that you're basically getting the QHD Touch for $600 less is pretty darn appealing. So the big question is how does it stack up against this high-end Wacom tablet? Okay, confession time. I've never actually used the Wacom Touch 27 QHD. Wait, don't leave! I've reviewed several other Wacom products, and I've reviewed a lot of drawing tablets in general, so I think I got this. So let's start with that screen. It is a screen that is so big that it comes with the zip code. So how is it? It looks really good. It is 2,560 pixels by 1,440 pixels. It comes with several cords that you can use to connect it. I'm bringing this up because I found that to get that full resolution working, I couldn't use the USB-C cord. I had to use some of the other cords to pull that off. I don't know if that was a driver thing that I just need to fiddle with more or whatnot, but if you plug it in and have that problem, just try using one of the other cords and to get the full resolution of the tablet. It is also an anti-glare screen. This gives you a little bit of drawing resistance when you're drawing on it, but not a ton. Now, Wacom's newer devices come with etched glass screens, like the newer Cintiq Pros. Those provide a little bit more drawing resistance when you're dragging that pen tip across the face of the screen. The downside of the etched glass is you get more diffuse colors on the screen. Now, overall, I think this is a pretty good middle ground. You're getting a little bit of resistance when you're getting that anti-glare screen. It's much better than drawing just on smooth glass, at least in my opinion, and you're not getting the reflection or refraction that you're getting of light on those etched glass screens. One thing a lot of people are going to notice when they take a look at this is the bezels are very big on this. They're so big that I don't know if they really classify as bezels anymore. You got several inches around each side of the screen. Some people don't like this. Some people would rather this have a much smaller footprint. Overall, I actually didn't mind. You know, I can lay my phone directly on the tablet. Also, if I'm using the Totem and I want to slide it off to the side, I don't have to worry about it just falling off the side of the tablet. Now, this is a touch-based tablet. I kept touch on. That's actually a huge compliment coming from me. With the Wacom Intuos that I used earlier this year and the Mobile Studio Pro, I was always toggling the touch off because I was getting a lot of accidental touches, like my shirt sleeve would come too close and then all of a sudden it would close down my web browser or change the focus or something. The touch on this screen is really well balanced, and I didn't find it picking up a lot of incidental touches or ever really getting in the way, and that also goes with palm rejection. Palm rejection was great. And if you don't like having touch, there's a button right here on the device. You can toggle that on and off from there, so you don't have to dive into the settings to do that. I think they found a really good balance between touch and using a pen at the same time. And speaking of that pen, it doesn't require a battery or any recharging. It's a standard EMR pen if you're one of those people who loves acronyms. And like I mentioned before, there are over 2,048 levels of pressure sensitivity in this pen. The newer Wacom pens get up to 8,000 levels, which sounds impressive, but at a certain point, I can't really tell the difference, and to be completely honest, 2,000 is plenty. Overall, the pen performs well. It doesn't feel quite as tight as some of the Wacom pens, at least the way I remember them. It's hard to put my finger on it exactly, and it's probably something that only I will notice. I think at the low end of the pressure curves, it comes off a little too strong. Now, it's entirely possible this is just me. I've been using a lot of Wacom knockoffs lately, and the problem with those is that the initial activation force you need to register a line is really high. high. That's not a problem here. If you're a light sketcher, you will love this. So me feeling like the pressure curve comes on too fast on the low end could just be because I'm used to those pens that have that higher activation rate to them. And it could be that this is just dead on and I'm not used to it. How about wobbly lines? Nope, you're good there. And like I said, all in all, this is a rock solid experience. This is pretty much what I expected. From the settings, you can adjust the softness or hardness of the pen, and there's not really a curve, but there's just a slider. You can also adjust the sensitivity of the tilt as well. Let's move on to this totem. There aren't any shortcut keys, express keys, whatever you want to call them, on the monitor itself. This is a trend I'm not really a fan of, but instead of those shortcut keys, we've got this. Dell calls it their totem. It's kind of similar to the Surface Dial that came with the Surface Studio last year. It's also probably the reason that the Dell Canvas drew so many comparisons to the Surface Studio when it was announced, that and its large size. So the totem itself, I think the dial has a lot of potential. It's kind of a cool idea. Like for zooming or changing brush sizes, doing analog incremental changes, this was a really nice interface. Some tablets have like a little slider along the side. Oftentimes with the Wacom stuff, you've got the ring and you can use that to kind of slide your finger on to change brush size and that sort of thing. Sometimes those are like way too sensitive or not sensitive enough, but I like the dial. It felt just right to me. Now the totem is completely customizable. I set it for brush size, so if I turn it one way, it repeatedly hits the brush size down shortcut. If I turn it the other way, it hits the brush size up shortcut. And of course you could do that with zoom. You could do that with undo and redo. You could use that to switch between like your brush tool and your erase tool. You can set that up to be any key press or shortcut. It also works on an app by app basis, so if I want my shortcuts to be different in Photoshop than they are in Illustrator, I'm good. I think where the totem doesn't replace traditional shortcut keys are modifier keys. I use the spacebar a lot to like pan around my illustrations, or I'll hold down the Alt key to duplicate an object or layer. It's hard to really do that with the totem. If I tap on the top of the totem, it acts as another button press. I set that to undo because I use undo a lot. If you hold down the totem for a second, it brings up another little shortcut toolbar thingamabob. And like everything else, I can put whatever I want there. Right now, I feel like what's holding the totem back is that these dial interfaces are so new that the software really isn't built to take advantage of it. Now, that isn't to say there are no apps out there that don't take advantage of the dial. There are a few. Okay, there's one. There's Sketchable. Sketchable has gone out of their way to kind of incorporate some of this stuff. Like there's the cool color changing effect as you turn the dial and stuff like that. It's kind of neat to see him play with it and try out different things. I don't really know how to use it in my artwork personally, but you know, it's good to see people thinking about it and trying stuff out. Also, as a side note, if you have the opportunity to use Sketchable or just even download the demo of it, if you're using a tablet of this size, it's really nice. On to the setup. The setup was super easy. I talked about this in my preview video the other week that I was going to try it out, and I was expecting to hit some bumps along the way. I almost always hit bumps when I'm like testing out different drivers, installing things. Not the case here. I just grabbed the software, I installed it, it went through the setup process, and it was up and running on my laptop, no problem. Now, one thing that you should know, and I should point out, is this is Windows only. There are no Mac drivers right now, and I don't think there are any plans to create any Mac drivers in the near future. And not only is this Windows only, it is Windows 10 Creator Update only. So you're going to need the latest version of Windows 10 before you can install any of this stuff. There are several pieces of software on Dell's website. You just need the first one, and if you download that and start installing it, it's going to go out and grab the others for you. So what else is included? There's some pen software that lets you set up your pen buttons and your shortcuts and your calibration of the screen and all that sort of fun stuff. There's also software that tries to make it easier to use this giant canvas touchscreen stuff. It's doing things like putting shortcuts on your desktop and that sort of thing. Then there's Canvas palettes. They built their own little shortcut bar. Right now it's got things like bring up your calculator or show all your windows, but you can set this to pretty much do anything. So I could put keyboard shortcuts in there. If I wanted to use this instead to switch between like my brush and eraser, I could totally do that. Overall, I really like this, but I did want to touch on some of the cons. There's gotta be something wrong with it, right? Well, I already just mentioned that it's Windows only, so you can't run it on a Mac, so that's one thing. For me, the default angle is just a touch too low. I ended up setting it on like a little bit of a riser so I could get it up a little bit higher. There is a stand accessory that's about $500 more that you can get. There's also a VESA mounting bracket, so if you want to mount it to an arm, the arm will cost extra as well, but you need to get the bracket so you can actually attach it to the arm. But no matter what you're looking at, if I was going to be using this full time for long extended periods of time, this is probably something that I'd want to invest in and something you want to factor into the cost when you're looking at getting a device like this. And the last con is the size, which is probably one of the biggest things that would draw you into something like this. But when you're talking about a giant 27-inch device, and it's bigger than 27 inches because you've got several inches on all the sides as well. I had to rearrange my office to fit this on my desk. I never found a good place for the keyboard. I use the keyboard a lot, and I ended up setting it directly on top of the monitor. There's a software keyboard. There's also a software like mouse touchpad thing as well, but I like the clickety-clack of a keyboard. So there you go. This is pretty much exactly what I expected. You're getting all the pros and cons of getting like the Wacom 27 QHD, except you're getting it at a smaller price tag. And with some of the new Cintiqs that are coming out next year, that prices of those are getting well over $3,000 for the high-end one. So this is going to be out. This fits like right below like those brand new Cintiq Pros. So if you want to get something big, but you don't want to spend all the money, but you want all the like great stuff that comes with Wacom tech, you can get that here. But still, $1,800 is really expensive. Some of the stuff that I've been reviewing lately, like the XP Pen 22, the Huion Canvas 22, you know, those things are like under $1,000. They're smaller, they're 22 inches, but you know, if you want to jump up to that next level and not make any compromises, you know, here's an option for you. I'm going to be adding this to my website, so if you want to see this or take a look at any of the other tablets that are kind of in its range, it's nothing really in its price range, but you know, in size range, and just do a compare and contrast, go ahead and check that link out down below. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know down below in the comment section. I'm probably going to be doing a Q&A video. I know I'm probably going to be getting a ton of questions on this because I've been getting a lot of questions over the last few weeks, and I've covered most of those. I haven't had everybody's questions, so I'm sure there's going to be some more. I'm definitely going to be doing up a follow-up probably in the next 2 weeks or so. I'm also going to be talking more about the Precision computer, and I'm probably going to be looking at it from the point of view of doing some video editing. I talked about video editing a tiny bit earlier this year and how I was thinking about moving over from being a Mac guy to a PC guy. Dell kind of took me up on that offer, and they wanted to see what I thought about it, so I'm going to be using the Canvas together with the Precision Dell desktop that they sent over to me to review, so that video will be coming out next week as well. So that's all I've got. I'd like to thank everybody who supports me, whether they're clicking on my Amazon links or supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. You guys keep this channel going. So thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you in a few days.